Time for another mailbag here on Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. We will answer your questions using the hashtag Seahawks or super chatting. It comes from our live shows that we do each and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Now, here's what I want you to do. Not only to subscribe, but turn on your notifications. Because if news breaks, we are going to try to get the video out or we'll go live, whatever we need to do, as quickly as possible. And you need to know when that happens so you're the first to see it. Go to your settings app, scroll down, tap YouTube, tap notifications, then turn on allow notifications. That way you never miss a moment of Seahawks Today. The latest happenings with your favorite team, we got them covered right here on the channel. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, never miss a moment. Aaron writes in, hashtag Seahawks, what is a position that is better addressed with free agency rather than the draft? There are good linebackers such as Azeez Al-Shari and Levante David in free agency. That's a very good question. And here's one thing I think about, okay? Let's point to this. The edge rusher position. Is Will Anderson going to be around at 5? Probably not. After that, I mean, you got guys like Andre Carter potentially, but the talent that you would be picking, assuming Will Anderson's gone, at the 5 spot is probably not going to be better than what you'll find in free agency. Same for the defensive tackle spot. Think about this. Once Jalen Carter's gone, which I doubt he's available at 5, you got guys, like Deron Payne sitting out there. I mean, the edge spot, Marcus Davenport sitting out there. It won't be cheap, but there are better options potentially there in free agency. I still prefer to build through the draft. That's the way I think you build a franchise for the long term. But there are some Band-Aids of sorts you could point to potentially there. Let's see. Question here. What are the chances on getting Payne or Davenport? Glad you asked. Speaking of which, Deron Payne and Marcus Davenport are not going to be cheap. And one thing that we told you guys about a while back when it came to Deron Payne was that you might find yourself in a situation where if you go with Deron Payne, you might not be able to afford Geno Smith. You might be choosing Deron Payne over Geno Smith. Marcus Davenport, I mean, it's all a possibility. But we know, historically speaking, the Seahawks don't like to spend money in free agency, that they prefer to find guys in the draft. So I would say this, that the chances of getting either guy, it's possible, but it's not very high, if that makes sense. But thanks for the question there. The Pass Master and OG here at Chat Sports, just stopping by, brother. I'm excited for Walker year 2. He's not doing anything but getting better. Anyway, just want to say thank you. Keep up the great work. Hashtag real one. Pass Master, you are a real one, my friend. Kenneth Walker is going to be a badass in 2023. He was spectacular this past season. Even with the question marks on the offensive line, we saw him still contend and be one of the best rookies, one of the best running backs in the entire National Football League. I can't wait to see what he has for an encore. I'll say this much. Not only do the Seahawks need to get that interior O-line help, I would like to see Seattle try to find the necessary pieces when it comes to another running back behind him or two to take the load off Kenneth Walker. I think we saw times after Rashad Penny went down where he went overworked of some sorts. But yes, he should have a big year, Pass Master. Jerry writes, what do you think about drafting C.J. Stroud? Well, Jerry, I'm glad you asked. C.J. Stroud, I think C.J. Stroud is going to be a very good football player in the National Football League. He's got all the things that you're looking for in a quarterback. I'll say this, though. You look at where Seattle is at, I think you could sit here and say to yourselves, okay, he might be there, but do I really want to miss on Tyree Wilson? If, Jalen Carter or Will Anderson somehow slip, you can't say no to that either. To me, there's just too many things potentially. The Seahawks would have to take care of something else. And then you look at next year. As good as I think C.J. Stroud is, same with Bryce Young, I think Caleb Williams and Drake May next year are even better than those guys. So with that said, I'm open to the possibility. C.J. Stroud, I think, could be a lot of fun for the Seahawks, could sit behind Geno Smith, but I don't think the chances of that happening are very high right now. Pin comment today. Mike and Nad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Should Seattle draft C.J. Stroud? If you think they should, type Y for yes. If not, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section below. Jonathan writes, if we miss in Schmitz, should we draft Luke Weipler at 53 or Joe Tippmann at 83? Weipler, we'll see. Those are certainly possibilities for this Seahawks team of what they could potentially do with those selections there at 57 and 83. To me, I think it all also depends. You mentioned with Schmitz there, like what I don't know about this scenario is then what do you do at 5 and 20? That kind of sets the tone for the rest of the draft. So I'm open to that possibility, but I don't, without knowing what they did at 5 and 20, that's hard to necessarily say with that answer, Jonathan. P. Kerr says take Hooker in the fourth, sign Geno 26.5 times 2. Let's start off with the first half of that with Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker's got a torn ACL. Hendon Hooker before the injury was probably a late first, second round pick, and he's probably going to miss most of next season. I'm not taking a fourth round pick on a guy that can't play for me. I like Hendon Hooker, but fourth round's too high. Geno 26.5 for 2 years. To me, that is one that I think is pretty low, the price tag. I think Geno is going to command more than 26.5. I think you're looking at least 30, if not more, when it comes to Geno Smith on that front. But thanks for the question, Pete Kerr. So, folks, it is the month of February. It is still cold outside at times, and we know about the winds. You got to be just a little bit warm out there. Why not be repping your favorite team with a very nice Seahawks hoodie? And I'm going to offer a deal just for Seahawks Today viewers. If you go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie, you can get one of these hoodies that you're seeing on your screen for up to 50% off. Half-price sale. Quite the deal if you ask me. You can get yours now, chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie today. You'll be glad you did. They look snazzy. You're representing your favorite team at the same time. You're feeling warm. Why would you not get one of these? Get yours now, chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie. Buck writes, which wide receiver is your favorite for the Seahawks to land? I really like Tank Dell. I like Tank Dell a lot, too, the wide receiver out of Houston. He and Clayton Tune had a nice duo. They were a good pairing there. Tank Dell, I believe the number was 17 touchdowns that he had this past year there for the University of Houston. Tank Dell's terrific, and I think he's got a bright future in the National Football League. He would be a nice find. One player that we talked about in our mock draft that has a chance of slipping is Zay Flowers. I'd look for him too. Chris writes, if you had to do it over again, would you have given DK Metcalf the extension he got last year? He wasn't as productive as he should have been. I understand where you're coming at, Chris. I get what you mean with the frustrations. DK still had a good year, but maybe not necessarily what he was paid. But think about this. Here's what I'll point to, Chris. The money that he got paid was not about last year. It's about the next several seasons and pushing forward, okay? You paid DK that money, not about one season, but because you believe in him that he's going to be a very good receiver for a long time. So, no, I don't have an issue with what they paid him and keeping him around. And if you don't like what he brings to the table, then maybe you trade him down the line if he has a down year this upcoming year. But to me, this was an investment in the future, and it will be a very good investment that will pay off. Buy or sell that DK Metcalf is a top 10 receiver in the National Football League. He's paid like it. Is he one? If you think DK is one of the best 10 receivers in the National Football League, type B for buy. If not, type S for sell. What do you think? Is DK a top 10 receiver? B for buy, S for sell. Let me know. Tyson writes, how do you rate our three tight ends? Fant, Disley, and Parkinson. All three tight ends were very similar to each other when it came statistically. I think the order of the tight ends is exactly what you gave right there, Tyson. It's Noah Fant, it's Will Disley, and then it's Colby Parkinson. But I don't think they're very far off from each other. I think they're pretty close. What I would like to see this upcoming season is these tight ends all used a little more. We saw early on in the season they really like to use 12 personnel, and they got those tight ends out in space, and there was a nice comfortability with Geno Smith with those guys. But I thought it wasn't the same at the end of the year as it was at the beginning of the season with the tight end spot. So, I think all three guys need to be used more. What are your thoughts on Kelee Ringo? Says M. Grubb. I got to tell you this. Kelee Ringo, I think, is a very good football player. Had a good run there with the Georgia Bulldogs, winning a national championship and everything. And what's so fascinating is that you look at draft stock-wise, he is all over the place. I've seen him as low as the third round, seen him in the top 20 of the draft. There's nothing really consistent. I think, you look at the depth, there's a lot of good corners in this draft. And Kelee Ringo, although he probably has a first-round grade, according to some folks, some of the experts out there, he might be one that ends up slipping. And if he's still around in the second round, and you're the Seahawks with 2 second-round picks, that'd be hard to pass on. I don't think Seattle takes him at 20 because they have other things to take care of. But second round, if he's still hanging around, hell yeah. Non-stop Seahawks coverage each and every day here on the channel. We're counting down to the draft, free agency, trades, and more. We got more mock drafts that are coming. Just did another one earlier this week. Stay tuned. Stay plugged away to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Subscribe today. Join the party as we're covering the Seahawks like no one else is. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. Jaden says Kenneth Walker III was robbed at the NFL Honors. Yeah, you certainly could have made a case for him to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. You could argue that Tariq Woolen was also robbed as well, with him not being the Defensive Rookie of the Year. That ultimately went to Sauce Gardner. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I know a lot of people make a big deal about what guy won what award and who was robbed and all that, but what matters is championships and winning football games. Kenneth Walker, that's what he cares about. Everybody knows Kenneth Walker's a really good football player, and he's got a bright future. Sure, he could have made his case to be Rookie of the Year, but that's at the end of the day, that's not what's important here. Kenneth Walker, he's going to be just fine. He'll get the recognition he deserves. Gail writes, should we sign an Eagles player like Javon Hargrave or James Bradbury? Let me hold on to that idea. See what I did there? James Bradbury, I think, is a very interesting one. James Bradbury, you look at him, and he had a nice bounce-back year after his time with the New York Giants. I think he's going to have a decent price tag, though. Javon Hargrave, same thing. I think Javon Hargrave's not going to be cheap. I don't know if the Seahawks would have the money for either one of these guys. I think you would like, if you could bring them in, you feel great. You're like, okay, that was nice. That'll work. But if it doesn't work that way, if you just don't have the funds to, then I think we understand. But I do like both players, but I don't know financially if it is going to work. AJ says, if the Rams are sellers this offseason, could we trade for Bobby Wagner? Oh, it's funny you ask. Let's be real with y'all. Bobby is not happy with the Seahawks these days. He did not like how things ended. And understandably so. I mean, they caught him, you know. He felt like he was disrespected. And that's part of the reason why he went to a division rival. The Rams might be sellers. There's been talk about them trading Jalen Ramsey potentially, questions about Matt Stafford's future and all that. I understand where y'all are coming from. It was, I think we can all humbly admit, it was a mistake to cut Bobby Wagner last year when he's arguably the best linebacker in the league still. Having Bobby Wagner right now would be really nice. But I don't think the Rams want to make the Seahawks better And I don't think Bobby wants anything to do with the Seahawks right now. I think there's still some bad blood, and he's not happy with the organization. So I just don't see that happening. I'd like Bobby Wagner in Seattle, but that just doesn't seem realistic. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Seattle Seahawks there. I'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.